And welcome everybody again to the latest instalment of the Halifax Rugby League Football Club's Heritage Lunch Zoom meetings, where we're very, very lucky today in that we've got with us a gentleman who was a very, very famous winger in his time at the club, and in fact holds 2 club records, more of which we'll come to later. But I'd like to welcome everybody to Keith Williams.
Pleasure to be with you, Ian.
Wonderful. We'll do what I always do before we come to the Halifax bit. I believe you came to us from Castleford Rugby Union, so does that mean you were more Rugby Union when you were growing up than Rugby League?
Oh, no, not at all.
Right.
No, there's a bit of a story about that.
Well, this is what we're here for, is your story, so let's hear it.
Yeah. Well, let's start at the very beginning. When I was about 8, that would be in 1945. That's just at the end of the Second World War.
Yes.
My dad took me down to Weldon Lane to watch Castleford play the Australians, I think it was.
Uh-huh.
And obviously, as an 8-year-old, I was right at the front. And it greatly impressed me, greatly excited me, especially the haka. When they started doing the haka, frightened me to death. And then a couple of Christmases, I got a rugby ball and a soccer ball. So that was when I was about 9. And at the primary school, or the junior school as it was called then, I was part of the school rugby team.
Yeah.
And I have a photograph of the team which says 1948-49, and I'm holding the ball in the middle. And so I was playing regularly for the school, an area of Castleford called the Potteries, and I played for the school there. And then, when I was 11, I was selected to play for Castleford schools against Hunslet as a curtain raiser for the match at Weldon Lane.
Uh-huh.
And so I played on that. I think the score was a draw, 3-3. So that was at 11, playing for Castleford schools. I practiced my goal kicking. With the rugby ball Christmas present, I was having a go at kicking in the local field, and we had some goalposts, so I was trying to kick over that with this heavy leather rugby ball. And of course, it was ages before I was successful to get one over. But eventually I did, and that was a triumph.
I was going to say, the leather ball. Sorry. I was going to say the leather ball in those days as well. If you got it for Christmas and you were out shortly after Christmas and it was wet, it'd be like kicking a brick anyway, wouldn't it?
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. Yes. I mean, all the time I played for Halifax, it was a leather ball.
Yeah.
And to kick that ball on some days, it was like kicking lead.
Yes. Yes.
And, you know, you had to give it a real punch to get it over. But progressing in my youth, I moved up to the secondary modern school and was playing there. But I was also a bit handy playing soccer as well.
Yes.
So I got in the school soccer team and the school rugby team, which created a bit of a debate in the staff room about which I should concentrate on. Anyway, rugby came out on top of that. And then, when I was 13, I passed the exam to go to Wakewood Technical College, which is a technical college at Castleford.
Yeah.
But they only play soccer there.
Right.
So
dilemma.
So for a couple of years, I was playing soccer, and I played for Normanton Town schoolboys team, and that was in the school's national league. And I also played for Castleford under 18s, but at that time I was about 15 when I was playing for them, and so played representative soccer for them. But then I got a letter from the local rugby union club, Castleford, asking if I would like to go and join the rugby team, because they'd heard that I was reasonably good at playing rugby. So I went over and started playing rugby union. And my first match was a second team match, open age, and I was 15. I was playing open age. I managed to score a try in that one. But that was right at the end of the season. The following season, I played a couple of matches in the A team and then was promoted to the first team. And I was still 15, going on 16 at that age. And so for the next couple of years, I played rugby union for Castleford.
That's right. If my research is correct, were you actually you were a standoff, weren't you, at rugby union?
I was a standoff, but I began on the wing, and then gradually moved in to the standoff position. Being young, I was a bit of a celebrity because I was many years younger than the next. So they made a bit of a fuss of me, and of course I revelled in that a little bit. But then we had Rugby League scouts coming to watch the games.
Yeah, yeah.
And I had Castleford Rugby League coming to see if I would sign for them. And I was a bit reluctant to do so. And then I had Unslit Rugby League, and they asked me if I could sign for them. And again, I was delaying it. It was during the time when Lewis Jones, can you believe it? Lewis Jones had just been signed on for Leeds for a world record fee of £6,000.
Yeah.
And that sent the bells ringing, you see. So I hung on. Now, the rugby union team got to the Yorkshire Shield final, and we were playing in the final Old Crossleans.
Yes, I know Old Crossleans. They're a Halifax club, yes.
Yes, the Halifax team. And there were them and the Old Thornensians, if I remember rightly. And in the final, it was a tight game, and I kicked a penalty from a couple of yards inside my own half. And the game was going in our favour a little bit. And then I managed to score another try to put us in a comfortable position. But the referee had awarded the try, and then attention was drawn to the linesman, who said the chap who'd thrown it in, his toes were 2 inches over the line. So the try was cancelled, and Oak Crossleans took the advantage of that and actually won it.
It's interesting that, because I thought that once the try had been awarded,
you couldn't.
That was it.
This was rugby union, mind you. Yeah,
right.
But anyway, that was the result. I mean, believe it or not, the week after we played Oak Crossleans anyway at Halifax, and we beat them. So it just shows how it go. Yeah. But then I'm getting a little ahead of myself, because whilst I was playing rugby union, I'd read this notice at the local school youth club saying there was a soccer team being made up to go to Germany, and if you got into the soccer team, it was a fortnight for £10, and it was one of these exchanges just after the war.
Yeah.
German use for English use, and there was netball and athletics and swimming, all part of the complex. Anyway, I went on that. I got chosen, and I went on that playing soccer, and the chap who was looking after us was a Bolton Wanderers scout.
So did they come knocking as well?
Well, I was training on the field at Castleford, and someone said there's a chappie in a car sat on the roadside. He would like to have a word with you. And I went in, and it was a chap from Bolton Wanderers, the secretary, saying, would I sign amateur forms for Bolton Wanderers? Because, as I say, the chap who took us to Germany was a Bolton Wanderers scout.
Yeah, yeah.
So he'd recommended me to them. I went and played one game at Bolton, but it took 4 hours to get there and 4 hours to get back.
Oh, blimey.
And I was put off by that. So I just wrote to them and said, no, I've had enough. I'm not going to pursue this, and I'll continue playing rugby. And then shortly afterwards, Halifax came and offered me a deal which I was happy to take.
Yes,
and so I was nearly 18 at that age, and went to Halifax. So I finished up at Halifax. Long story, but there we are.
No, so it's interesting, because in effect, you could have signed for you could have carried on playing the rugby union, or signed for the football, or signed for the rugby league, all these people after your services. And as you said, you were still only 18, and presumably some of the sums of money were, for a lad of 18 at those times. I mean,
yes.
The figure I looked up, which you can either confirm or deny, was that you got £1,200 for signing.
That is correct. That's correct.
And if £6,000 was the world record fee,
yes,
£1,200 in those days. Well, I'm presuming that would be more than the price of a house in the 40s, wouldn't it?
Yes. Well, I was able at 20 years of age to buy a house. Yeah, in a quite a reasonable neighbourhood as well.
Yes.
So yes, obviously that's why I accepted. And it was at the same time that I signed that, I don't know if you can remember, Bryn Jones.
Yes.
Bryn Jones.
Yeah. Scrum half, I believe.
Yes, he was. A very nippy scrum half from Blackpool. And Garfield Owen was around that time. And Charlie Reynoldson.
Charlie, loose forward.
Yes, a smashing youth forward. I think he's in Australia now.
Yes, he is. Yeah,
I believe he is. Yes.
But yes, so.
What year was that then, Keith? What year?
I signed on in 1956.
Right.
I was born in December 1930. So.
I'm just where I was going was that then I think my dad finished his career about 58, so you overlapped a little bit, didn't you?
Oh yes, I played with your dad.
Yeah,
I played with your dad. I mean, the team that I can remember around that time would have been Garfield Owen, Johnny Freeman, Jeff Palmer, John Burnett, and myself when I first got into that team. Your dad and Stan Keelty, and then there was Jack Wilkinson, Alvin Ackley, and John Thorley, Les Pearce, John Henderson, and Ken Trail. So that's the game I remember.
What a team! Yeah. What a team you've come out with there, Keith.
Not a shabby side, is it?
Not bad. No. And the match, what was particularly in my mind was Bradford Northern at home. And I think this always sticks in my mind before any others. I mean, Robert Gates, the Rugby League statistician, said my first game was at Blackpool a year before, but I can't remember that. But we were playing against Bradford Northern, and your dad, Malcolm, and Ken Dean had this little move where your dad had passed to Ken and run round Ken and look as though it gathered the ball back from Ken to continue running away.
Oh, yeah.
And the winger would come up on the inside of Ken Dean and between the pack and Ken Dean and shoot off if you were lucky. Well, the first time we tried it, I was in open space. There was only the full back to beat, and that was from well within our own half.
Wow.
Unfortunately, I didn't beat him.
I thought this was going to be the wonderful ending that burst you in.
Yeah, if I were you, Keith, I'd put a different ending to that one.
but it had the crowd shouting at least anyway. It showed them that I was on the field.
Excellent.
The next game was at Leeds away at Headingley, and Lewis Jones was playing in that game, actually. You know, the one we've been talking about.
Yes.
And during the game, I was crash tackled quite hard and got a badly bruised shoulder. This was in the first half. They flattened me, in other words. At half time, I could hardly raise my left arm. It was extremely painful. I thought I didn't know if I'd broken it or something. But I kept quiet about it. I went on in the second half and got to the end of the game. And then I didn't want to kind of share this injury that I got. So I went to the psychotherapist and had a week's treatment there before being selected to play against Dewsbury. And it was there that I broke the record.
That's right. It was only, according to my research, and it was only the third time you'd appeared on the wing for the club. I've got it down as, just check my notes here, October, in November 1957. And you're right, Dewsbury at home. Yes. Halifax won 62-2.
Yeah.
Scored something like 16 tries, of which you scored 8 of them.
That's correct.
Can I just say there's Keith, as a why would I be 8ish, 8 or 9 then, and I can remember because I used to put a T or a G next to everybody's names as they scored.
Yes.
Ran out of space. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah. Well, your dad, of course, was playing in that match along with Ken, and everything seemed to work out perfectly. John Burnett, I was on his wing because Johnny Freeman was still fit and playing in that match. Yeah. So I was on John Burnett's wing, and he was the most perfect centre I've ever played with. And he gave me perfect service. And I run in 7 tries, basically, from passes from John. But then Ken Dean got a knock on his head, and we decided that he would go on to the right wing and I would go in at standoff half. Well, guess what? The ball went straight to Ken on the wing, but it was right in the top right-hand corner, away from the officers. Yeah. And he just gave a little chip back inside, and the chip, I was on it light and dropped, and that was the 8th try. So Ken was the light one. But with the injury, I've said this in different places, with the injury, I firmly believe I could have made it 10 on that day, but for this left hand, I couldn't reach down for the ball.
Right, yes.
Normally I would have picked them up all day, but you know, I just couldn't hold it with the pain in my left arm. So it just shows how things work, doesn't it?
It does, and I mean, to put it into context, scoring 8 tries in a league game, I know in years gone by not so long ago that Greg Austin, for example, got 9 tries, I think, and they talk about Sean Edwards and Martin Afire scoring 10 tries, but they were in cup competitions.
Yes.
Nobody's approached your 8 in a league game.
In a professional capacity, yeah.
Yes, in a professional capacity. But as you say, I mean, I like the way that you sat there, and yes, you've got your 8 tries, but the first person you thanked was your centre.
Oh, John, I was forever grateful for John.
Yeah.
Mind you, I mean, the team, like we've previously said on this recording, what a team to play for at that time. Yes. I think when I remember on that particular day, there was 1 or 2 others on that side, which I mentioned earlier. Colin Clift was the loose forward, and Charlie Reynoldsson was in the second row along with Les Pearce.
Yes.
So those were the changes, and Peter Briers was at the full back. But what a team! I mean, we were winning everything generally in Yorkshire, but it was just in fact, just perfect playing for them.
I was going to say, in that season in 57-58, Halifax actually won the Yorkshire Championship, didn't they?
That's true. Yeah. And home and away against Dewsbury, I scored the 8 at Halifax. But at Dewsbury, I got 5 there in the same season.
You must wish you could play them every week.
And later on, I got a 6 against Doncaster in that first season. So, so things were going my way, you might say.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting as a winger, because obviously in those days, I'm assuming that Dewsbury were playing at the old Crown Flat ground.
Yes, they were. Yes.
What must it be like running uphill from that bottom corner, what they call the little 9-hole in the bottom? Ooh. It must be like thinking, this is worse than running up Shibden Park.
It is, but I'll tell you what, running down into that corner, and you've got someone tackling you and dropping on you as you go forward. That you take quite a thumping going down. So
maybe I could say maybe running uphill is the better option.
Better for being tackled, yes. Yeah.
And this brings me on actually nicely to the second record that you hold, in that you scored a try in 11 successive games as well.
That is correct. I scored 19 tries in 11 matches, apparently.
Yes.
But I understood that record was broken about 5 to 10 years ago by I've forgotten his name. So I'm not sure that I can claim that record. I know the record stood for about 50 years.
Yes.
But I think someone, Burton, was it? Is it a player called Burton?
Bruce Burton.
Bruce
Yes.
Burton.
Right. I think it was him who played got 13 in succession.
Right.
So maybe I can't still claim that.
But you were the holder for a long time.
Oh yes, 50 years. Yeah,
I mean, 50 years is. I think it deserves a mention all the same. and also, I mean, there you are, scoring tries almost for fun on the right wing, and we come to that season where I believe Johnny Freeman had scored something like 40, 42 tries before Christmas.
That was the
He's
same
obviously
season.
going to be on target to get the all-time season score of tries if it had kept injury-free. But he hurt his knee. Am I right that you swapped wings and scored about 40 yourself?
I'm not sure if it was the same season.
Right.
The try record. You see, my first game in that season was the 9th of November. So I'd missed 11 matches.
Yeah.
Up to that point. And I got 40 in that season. Johnny Freeman, I don't know if it was Batley away that he got injured. And, he's probably played about 16 and got 38 tries.
Yes.
So if you add both of the scores together, it would have broken the world record.
Records.
It just had me thinking. Then you were alluding to centres and the great service from John Burnett, and then Jeff Palmer was on that left side, wasn't he? In the main.
Yes.
Would you say? And I was only Smalls, but I'm just sort of thinking myself. Two different styles of service, or was it just because he was a big man, wasn't he, Jeff?
Jeff, I always thought Jeff had style.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he was very gracious in his running. His running style was very, very kind of gracious, and his pounding legs and his flying air, as it were.
All right.
In the wind, and I got great service from Jeff as well, because swapping wings for me didn't really bother me.
No.
In a way, I'm happy playing all along the back line, really. So the service I got from him was absolutely brilliant as well.
Yeah, excellent.
I mean, I went to Jeff Palmer's funeral a few months ago.
Yeah, that wasn't long ago, was it?
No, and it's there that I met Andrew Hartcastle and was having a chat with him.
Yes.
And Jeff's son was commenting that his dad had been involved with two wingers who scored lots of tries in the same season.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that being Johnny Freeman and yourself. And I mean, as you said there, you said you were just, you were happy to play on the right wing with John Burnett, happy to play on the left wing with Jeff Palmer. When that back line you read out early, I think most players would just be happy to get a game.
Yes,
players of that calibre.
Yeah. I mean, I was signed on, so they tell me, I was signed on along with Bryn Jones, who was scrum half, to replace Malcolm's dad, Stan, and Ken Dean. But they seemed to be going on forever. You couldn't displace them. Now your dad, Malcolm. I mean, I'd be on the field with him, and he'd suddenly start limping, and he'd kneel down, push his knee, and you'd hear a click, and then he'd run off. And he says afterwards, my cartilage comes out, and I just push it back in, and then I continue playing. They did that on the rugby field.
As a child, I remember that cartilage hot.
I was amazed. Here he was, this great player.
Doesn't that sort of, when you look at, it's very difficult to compare the games now. I don't think one should really, because they are long different styles. But when you had 13 players, that's all you got, didn't you?
Oh yes. There were no reserves.
No people
coming on.
No.
If you got sent off, your team were playing with 12 men.
Yeah. So
I remember Huddersfield in a cup tie. We were playing at Huddersfield. John Thorley broke his arm in the first half. He actually broke his arm. And he played through all of the second half with a broken arm. Still propping.
Wow.
Propping on the side where his broken arm was hanging loose.
Wow. Dear. Yeah.
You know.
Just something came into my head. Yeah, well, not right there, Ian. What was it? We've touched with other people, coach with relationships with coaches and that. Would it be Dolly Dawson then was still?
Yes. Yes.
I mean, I just wondered about styles of people and things like that. What was your make on his delivery to a team?
Well, there's a story yet again about Dolly Dawson. When I signed on, I was an apprentice engineer working in Leeds,
Right.
and so when I signed on, it was suggested to me that Ken Trail used to go over in his car, and he used to pick up Dolly Dawson. And can you remember Tuss Griffiths?
I know the man. Yeah, well, I know the name.
I've heard of him. Yeah.
But full back.
Yeah.
It picked Dolly Dawson, Tuss Griffiths, and me up, and so I had the privilege of being taxied to Halifax and back into Leeds afterwards, listening to the international Ken Trail, Dolly Dawson, fantastic, talking about rugby league, and I was just there listening, mouth agog all the time.
Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, Frank didn't muck around. He kind of wanted to be. He was an authoritative coach.
Yeah,
and he was always a favourite of mine, I have to say. But he lost popularity within the team, and it came that after a team meeting, Frank left the club, and because the players had a problem with it.
Yeah, they call it losing the dressing room, don't they? Type of thing. Yeah. I suppose there's always. I think everybody, whether they're playing or coaching, there's a sell-by date sometimes on, isn't there? You know.
Yes.
and
there is.
It's everybody realizing when that is, I think.
Yeah, I think a previous speaker of yours who was coaching was saying something like that, wasn't he? That after, I think, I don't know if it was 7 years, that he thought that was enough. He'd reached his limit.
Yeah, the interview we did with Richard Marshall.
That's him. Yes, Richard. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's nice because it shows somebody's actually listening to it.
Oh, I watched them all. I've listened to the one with Penke as well, Sean.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And with James, is it? The reporter.
Oh, sorry, David Woods.
David Woods.
David Woods, yes. David Woods.
Yeah.
I listened to him. I mean, that interested me because his dad supported Bolton Wanderers.
Oh, of course.
Yes. Right.
I forgot all
that.
Yeah.
There's always a link somewhere, isn't there?
There is.
Ian, have you got a question or two there? Because I've the odd one.
Yes. I was just saying that. When I was thinking, when Dolly Dawson lost the dressing room, who came in to coach the side then?
I think it was a previous player for Halifax. He was a Welshman, and he was an international, and he also played for Leeds. But I can't remember his name.
Oh, I can't think.
Where's Andrew Hardcastle when you need him? Andrew would know.
Yes, he would.
Yes.
He would. I'll have to look that up now.
Yes, so will I. You've caught me out.
But I think he moved. He was playing with Doncaster. I mean, end of his career really. So
yeah,
he came over to Halifax to coach us. I don't know if it was just for a year or 2 years.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, he was new. He was new to it, and following the discipline and fitness requirements of Dolly Dawson, his regime was a bit easier. So I think the team discipline, we lost a bit of ground on team discipline, really.
Yeah.
Is it fair to say? Is it fair to say? Sorry, that it was then going to start going through an evolution, like every team does, isn't it? So probably around 60, 80, people come to the end of their careers, etc.
Yeah. I mean, let's face it. Just before I signed on, two Challenge Cup finals and two league championships.
Yeah.
You know, was already there in the last 4 or 5 years before I signed on.
Yeah.
So you know, you're talking about a very high class team there, aren't you?
Oh, you are indeed.
But go on. Sorry, go on.
Going. I mean, in that same era, players who I've played against and opposite include Billy Boston, Mick Sullivan. I mean, he played on the other wing, 2 internationals for Wigan. Brian Bevan, I played against him, the flying Aussie.
From the Warrington player.
Yes, he could sidestep about 8 yards to one side.
Blimey.
Amazing. Bald head, no teeth. He looked about 50. And he could beat you with a sidestep, which left you just gasping for air.
Yeah.
Alex Murphy was another one.
Yeah.
Tommy Smales, Vince Corelius, Tom Van Vollenhoven.
Yes. Who would you say was the best player that you actually played with? I mean, we already discussed the likes of Jeff Palmer and John Burnett because of the service they gave you. But what about the best player you played with per se? Was it one of those two? Is there somebody else you would select?
The thing was, we had a team of stars, a team of top-class players, and they all contributed to the result at the end of the game. Now, of course, when you're a winger, the person who normally gives you the ball is the centre. So to have a good relationship with that person is essential. And John was perfect, and Jeff Palmer was perfect as well. I fitted in like a glove with both of them. Yes. And was very grateful for the service they gave me, and it allowed me to show flair as well. You know, having received the ball, then of course all tries you have to work for, and
there's still to be finished.
You have to beat people to do it. Yeah.
Turn that around a little bit as well, because I once remember somebody talking about it was John Burnett and Duncan Jackson as it happened. But I'm sure other contributors on defending. So everybody likes to score their tries, but coming in together to make sure those two people, and that's where again, did John have the same rapport with you? Let's go in and we kill this together. Because if you do it one at a time, you can be left stranded, can't you?
Yeah. Defense-wise. That first game against Bradford Northern, which I mentioned earlier, right at the very beginning.
Yes.
They came down on my wing, did Bradford. And there was an international centre who played for Bradford at the time. Again, I've forgotten his name. But in my innocence, my first game, he drew me in to tackle him, and he slipped it to the winger who scored. Now, Ken Trail tore shreds off me for that mistake.
Yes.
He said, we can get the inside man. We haven't got the speed to take the outside man. So in future, you don't be drawn in. You take the outside man. Let the cover take the inside man. I never forgot that. And so what I would do is, with the speed, I was able to delay the tackle and let the ball, you know, they could only hold on to it for so long, the opposing centre. So to take that tackle until he passed the ball and then take the winger.
Yeah.
But I have to say, defence wasn't my most brilliant aspect of the game. But Johnny Freeman and I had this understanding between us that if play was being attacked down either wing, the other winger would hit the corner flag.
Yes.
So we would always
to cover behind him.
Yes, and if the full back ever came into the line out, then the other would revert back to the full back position to watch defensively.
Yeah.
And on numerous occasions, I've made try-scoring tackles on Johnny Freeman's wing after they've managed to get down there. Same as he's done the same for me down my wing.
Yeah.
So we're able to cover the ground, but you had to be pretty fit to be covering those kind of distances.
Yes.
Over to you, Ian.
I was going to say, as you progress through your career and you get towards the end of your time with Halifax, am I right in that you moved to play for the A team as a fullback, and in fact you won the Yorkshire Senior competition in the A team, winning every single game, and you scored in every single game as well, I believe.
Well, I mean, I can't remember that, but it wouldn't surprise me. But when you've got a team which included Paul Daly, Dave Stockwell, Colin Dixon, Frank Fox, Adam Fogarty, and Duncan Jackson.
Yeah.
And you know, we'd got a brilliant team. We were beating a team like Leeds by 50 points.
Yes, yes.
Teams like Hull by 50 points. And so I was captain and full back, and I used to say, I don't want to tackle anybody. I used to I used to you know rally them and keep them on the toes, and if it scored one, I also wanted them to score another one, and to keep the pressure on.
Yes.
I always had this thing: if you save a try, it's as good as scoring one.
Yeah, it has exactly the same effect on the scoreboard.
Exactly.
Stopping a minus is just the same as adding a plus. That's
true. That's true. So every try you stopped was the equivalent of scoring a try.
Yes.
And so I kept the various teams that after leaving Halifax, I always had that mantra: stop.
Yes.
Even if we're losing by a significant amount, don't let them score another one.
Yes, yes. Because once again, in the research, you continue playing for Halifax until, I think your last match I've got down for the 26th of October in 1963. I might as well give you the stats now, which made 154 first team appearances, 89 tries and 47 goals for a total of 361 points. And that was in only 6 years, so or maybe 7 seasons. That's a pretty good strike rate.
Yeah, and the thing was that I mean, out of the technically the 8 seasons I was there, the first season I only played 3 appearances, and then I had a good run for the next 5 seasons, and then the next 2 seasons, like you say, I was in the A team, and so the opportunity of scoring tries in the first team diminished.
Yes,
but
you were doing an important role at that stage, going down into that A team, because I mean the A team, the players that you just mentioned then that were playing, but they have to learn the game.
Yeah, they were
having an experienced player like yourself at fullback, who's played wing, who's played centre, and can talk to them and pinpoint where they should be going. It's worth its weight in gold, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Me, in my turn, I used to taxi Paul Daly to Halifax.
Yes,
like Kent Rayleigh used to do for me, and he developed into a first team coach. Did Paul after his playing days, and we used to talk tactics all the way there and all the way back, and he'd be listening and you know, gaining from my experience, but also using his own playing experience as well, because he was a good player as well.
Yes.
Was Paul.
So it's almost like a circle from you getting in a car with people like Ken Trail and learning off an international, spending your time at Halifax, and then in return bringing the youngsters through in the car with you and passing on your experience. Did you ever go into the serious side of coaching? This is some of the research that I'm not sure of.
No. I mean, of course, I moved from Halifax to Huddersfield.
Yes,
only for a few months, really. And then Bradford Northern, if you remember, they went under financially.
That's right, yes, in the early 60s, yeah.
And they restarted again in 1964.
Uh-huh.
And interestingly, Jack Wilkinson was the coach, and Ken Dean was the assistant coach.
Yeah.
And I was captain of that team when they started up again there. So I signed from Huddersfield to Bradford Northern.
To Bradford Northern, yeah.
I mean, Harry Womersley, who was a director of Halifax, he became a director of Bradford Northern, and whether that was the catalyst to bring ex-Halifax players into their team, possibly.
If I remember rightly, I think there were 2, weren't there? Jack Fricker, there were 2, and there was about like the younger element of the board moved in a different direction.
In those days.
Did David Stockwell go straight away? I know he ended up there quite early, but there was a little Halifax contingent.
He went to Halifax just after I left. I mean, again, I was only at Bradford for a few months, and they wanted this second row from Doncaster to Hepworth. So I went in exchange. I was injured at the time. Gus Risman, that other famous player, Gus Risman, he was the coach at Halifax at Bradford after Jack Wilkinson.
Right.
And we were sprinting on a cold evening, and I pulled my hamstring. And I had to walk right up about 100 steps to get to the physio.
Yes, that long walk up the side of the stand.
And he promptly put me in an ice cold bath to stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
And that put me out for more or less the rest of my time at Bradford. When I was transferred to Doncaster, technically I was still injured.
Right.
But anyway, I did 2 seasons when I got fit, I did 2 seasons at Doncaster. Before I then, when I retired, I said I would wean myself off rugby league by going into refereeing.
All right.
So I joined the Leeds and District Referee Society, and for 3 years I trained as a referee and then refereed around Leeds and the surrounding areas.
Yes.
Every Saturday afternoon.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And when they decided that they would start playing rugby league on Sundays, which is commonplace now, but then it was a big deal.
Yes.
I pulled out of refereeing at that point.
Right.
And retired from that. But Castleford Rugby Union asked if I could do a bit of coaching for them during the cup tie runs.
Yes.
And so that's the only coaching that I did, was back in Rugby Union, because the actual Castleford ground was just 50 yards away from where I lived.
All right.
And so consequently, it was very handy for me to just do that.
I'm going to put a question here now about linking not playing on a Sunday with possibly something else you used to do on a Sundays. Is that?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Am I going down the right path?
Yes, you are. Yeah. I mean, just before we go on to that question, Ian mentioned about that last game against Bramley.
Yeah.
Following that game, in which I understand I played full back, the transfer fee overnight doubled from 1,500 to 3,000. Following that match,
right,
the board of directors doubled my transfer fee on the basis of me playing during that match.
Wow.
So in a way, I mean, I remember Mr. Horsfall, who was the chairman of directors at that time, was trying to persuade me again after a game at York away, and on that occasion I was playing standoff, and it was towards the end of my time with Halifax, so I was all over the place, and I was carving up their defence pretty well every time we got the ball. So he asked me if it was possible to change my mind, but I felt a bit let down, to be honest, in that I didn't think the club had treated me, fairly, really, because I was 2 years in the second team, was scoring tries, like you were saying,
yes,
lots of tries, but it didn't seem to make any difference. At that time, the coaches were Griff Jenkins. He was a first team coach, and Albert Fernley was a second team coach. But afterwards, of course, Albert became the first team coach, and they won the championship again.
Yes, they did.
The season, a couple of seasons after I left.
Yes. I'm going to push you a little bit now on the thing that Malcolm was alluding to in the career
Right.
The career path you chose after the rugby. Completely different.
Yes. Well, again, from childhood, I joined the Scouts. Part of joining the Scouts, it was the Castleford Parish Church Scout Group.
Yeah.
Part of joining the Scouts was you attended church parades, and the Scoutmaster, he was a devout Christian and a lay reader in church, and it was a great example to set for young people growing up. And he encouraged me to get confirmed at 13 And my mum always said, if you make a promise, keep it. And so then, from then on, I would get up and be at the 8 o'clock service every Sunday, even when I was in my teens.
Yeah.
And the Scoutmaster said, if you attend church on a Sunday, what you do with the rest of your day is up to you. So it was church on the morning and playing touch and pass and rugby at the local recreation ground in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So that was my Sundays. And then I continued attending, even though I was playing professionally at the time. I always say, there isn't many people who can say they said the prayers before 28,000 people. Well, yes. I did when we played Wigan at Halifax in the cup tie, and we lost 25-0.
Oh, so
and that was the record for Halifax.
The record attendance, yes,
and that still stands. Yes,
it does. I mean, having been one of those, when I first started watching Halifax, obviously they were up at Thrum Hall, so I'm one of those people whose initial grounding literally into rugby league was up there at Thrum Hall.
Yes,
and I was there, I think, when there was 12,500 in for a 1972 cup tie. And when I think back to that, and I'm thinking they are double the number of people,
more than double
in this space, and I'm thinking, how on earth did they all get in?
Yes, where I worked in Leeds, there was people asking me for tickets for the match. It created a great interest. This titanic match between Halifax as they were and Wigan who they were. Billy Boston, Mick Sullivan on the wings, Johnny Freeman and me opposite them. But they gave us a lesson in rugby league that day. Did Wigan? Yeah. They just cut us apart.
Right,
with long, brilliant passing. But to get back to my Christian life, I continued attending. I became a church warden, which is an official within the local church.
Yes.
I was progressing quite well in my employment, but I came to a period in my early 40s when I was made redundant, and it was a time when I was questioning what would I be doing next. And arising out of that, I felt a call to go into the church. This was encouraged by a number of people within my church and other churches. So I went to St John's College in Nottingham for 2 years, training there to be for the priesthood, while my wife stayed at home with our son in Methley. Yeah. And then I was appointed as a curate in Beeston Hill, Leeds, Holbeck Beeston in Leeds.
Yes.
Not far from the Hunslet ground, actually. And then, following 3 years there, I went to Swillington, where they had an amateur rugby league team there.
Yes.
And in my previous experience, I'd worked down a coal mine. So I was able to relate very well pastorally to the men of the parish. Normally you get a congregation where it's predominantly women. But I was able to relate to the men. This person who played professional rugby league put a different slant on their understanding of Christianity.
I believe you also end up at Batley?
I then moved from Swillington to Batley, and even before I was inducted into the church at Batley, Batley Rugby League team directors asked if I would be chaplain to Batley Rugby League. And the reason for the rush was that they were going to play Wigan in the cup tie.
They wanted all the intervention they could get their hands on.
Exactly. I was to use all my powers to try and get a good result. Well, Wigan won 80-odd points to about 5.
Okay.
On that day.
So if I get this right, you've told 2 stories there, both involving Wigan, both involving you and Prayers, and
oh, yes.
not getting the right result.
Yes, both times, yes. I mean, people came up to me and said, well, your prayers didn't work. You know, when Batley lost 82 points or something like that to 5. Yes. I said, well, they did, because they could possibly have got 150.
Is it fair to say, I'm just going to, what's going through my mind there is, in life, using life experiences, and clearly you've got a lot of experiences through Rugby League, and were you able to adapt those in this new career, shall we say, whilst not mentioning rugby, but mentioning, you know, people who have influenced, and how, I don't know, just something that you may have been able to fall back on.
Well, again, in my previous work, I developed through various occupations to be a personnel manager, and then I was director of management services for a steel company, and that involved having good PR relationships with the workforce. And unfortunately, before making myself redundant, I made myself redundant. I gave redundancy papers to about 200 people, and I tried to pastorally care for every single one by doing it individually. So that was part of the training prior to priesthood. But relating to people came quite easily to me, and I was comfortable in people's company and got along easily with you know, all sorts and all types, and so that helped me quite a lot in the ministry. But also, you know, the conflict that you can get in church as well as on the rugby field, I was able to deal with that as well, and the pressures that you put under at certain times in clergy, in ministry, are similar to pressures placed on, you know, when you're facing an excellent team on the rugby field. So being quite disciplined in both areas. You need discipline on a rugby field, and you need discipline when you're in ministry.
Yeah.
If we could go on all night, I think, with this, because I'm loving every minute of this. But we've probably got about 3 or 4 minutes if I need to be sort of cranky on that one, because it's a matter of what we've got to download after we've finished and upload again the other end. So I don't know. Back to you, Ian, if we can, for the last 3 minutes.
I personally have no further questions I wish to ask you at this moment, Keith. What I would like to do is to thank you very, very much, not only on my behalf and Malcolm's behalf, but on behalf of the people who we're glad to discover today there are people out there who are tuning in and listening to these conversations. Because without people like yourself and Penky and Richard and Julia Lee last week, we don't have this. And it's in the current times, I think it's so useful for people to still be able to sit in the safety of their own houses, and for those with longer memories in this case than others, to be fair, to go back and just reminisce about the times. So Keith Williams, winger with the record tries in a game, and for many, many years holder of the record for the number of consecutive matches scoring a try. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. Thank you.
Well, it's been my privilege, Ian and Malcolm, to be part of it with you. And I might say that you're doing a marvellous job.
Thank you very much.
This is what our communities need. And both the Lunch Club and what you're continuing to do through modern technology is absolutely brilliant. And I give you full marks for what you're doing, because it's a great need in society nowadays, because there's too many people who are lonely and living on their own and feel detached from things, and it's smashing what you're doing. So thank you very much for inviting me.
And thank you for those lovely comments.
Thanks
Bye.
again.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Best wishes to you and your
Best wishes.
Yeah.
And I might say, God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye for
Bye-bye.
now.